Oh yeah, people, before I start the video, you gotta listen to me talk for a sec. Well, you do listen to me talk, but you gotta listen to me talk about, other things. Have a look there on screen. The zone, we've got Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. We have the problem child versus, well, I mean, he really is a problem child. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. It's a meeting of the problem child. It will be live on the zone. Link will be in the description. I'm also putting the link, right? You'll see it there on screen. There's a lot of Addy and G-Man content there. There's a little bit, I think there's a couple of episodes, a couple of clips of the look back that me and Addy did on Kell Brook Triple G. It's a good way to stay in touch, see what I'm at, kind of see what goes on. I don't really do that much of everyday stuff, but it's there nonetheless. It'll be pinned in the comment section. Hopefully you guys like it. Let me know. Until then, enjoy the video. Alright people, so Deontay Wilder stops Sergiy Herndon in 7 rounds. Before we carry on, before we talk more about this fight, I would appreciate it if you could please take a minute to hit the like button and hit subscribe as well. Channel is growing, want to get 25k, would love to get to 30k by the end of the year. We're pulling out all the stops, new lighting, new camera, new everything to make sure we get that. Let's get to 30k, so if you could hit the like button, I would greatly appreciate it. Let's talk about, well, I was going to call it was a fight, but let's talk about it. So, going into this fight, I wasn't expecting much of Deontay Wilder, I have to say. Seeing how he looked against Joseph Parker nearly 2 years ago now, I questioned what was left in the tank. He looked even worse against Zhilei Zhang, that was a year ago. And Herndon, no disrespect, this is a guy who was brought in to be an opponent for the likes of, Richard Torres. He was the debut opponent for F.A. Ajagba. If it's someone like F.A. Ajagba who you think could go places, but he's raw, he's not as raw as he used to be, but he is still quite raw. He certainly was when he turned pro. You give him someone that's not going to cause him any real problems, that he's going to look good against, and maybe he's going to turn up to try and have a go, but your prospect is going to win. This is the guy Wilder was in there with. If you think of the Wilder who fought Dominic Brazil, the Wilder who fought Luis Ortiz in the first fight, that version of Deontay Wilder, which we do not have anymore, and we're never going to get it, unfortunately, because that was an exciting fighter. He was low volume, but he was exciting. That Deontay Wilder wouldn't have even lasted a round or two. He would have let that right hand go. It wouldn't have been as laboured as it looked in this fight. The one saving grace I would say for Wilder is that he let more shots go than we've seen in the past. But I suspect that's because he didn't feel a perceived threat from this guy. Herndon was posing for pics with Deontay Wilder a couple of years ago. So you're talking about a guy who, in the nicest way, is almost happy to be there. It's like the Devin Alexander, Floyd Mayweather thing. You had guys in the same division as Floyd Mayweather when he was in his peak or when he was having his run at welterweight, where they were just happy to be mentioned alongside Floyd. I don't think they had any intentions of fighting him, or if they did, they didn't even probably want to beat him seriously. People like Devin Alexander, they loved him. So Wilder in this fight, he probably thought, I'm in there with a guy who respects me, who likes me, and he's probably just happy to be there. And it seemed that way. Herndon was saying that he wants to emulate what Joseph Parker did. And in a way, he was kind of doing that. He was moving around the ring, he was keeping it at range. But what was Joseph Parker doing against Wilder? Flipping throwing punches. That's what he was doing, and having success with it. Herndon was literally just moving around the ring. I wouldn't say, it's bordering on running at times in there. He was bordering on running, but he was just moving around the ring. That's all he was doing. Wilder was following, he was using the jab, he was letting the right hand go, as I said. Now, it appeared to not have the same velocity on it that we're used to seeing, or certainly that he was throwing in the past. The fact he was throwing it, I'm kind of like, okay, you're letting it go if nothing else. It's inaccurate in terms of, you're not able to land it the same way. It clearly doesn't have the same bite on it that it once had, but, that's more down to you and not being, shot. I think you need to just find that, inner smack, which, I mean, I'm struggling to see where he's going to get it from at this stage. But he was doing things in there that made me think, all right, he's not completely over the hill and done. But he did look old at times in there at the same time. Again, he was in there with a very limited opponent. So to look good at times in patches against a guy like this, no disrespect to Herndon, it's really like, what do you really say to that? It's kind of like, well, you look good in patches, but like, against this guy, is that a good thing or a bad thing? The fact that you look good in patches, that might be a bad thing actually. At the end of the day, Wilder dropped this guy twice. He dropped him with a left hook, which was in the second, which was a grazing left hook. It was a little
Yes, Herndon was off balance. He did protest to the referee that he was off balance, but it still landed. It's still a shot. You're not used to seeing Wilder knock guys down or drop them with the left hook at all, but he did in this fight. Again, not really much of a shot. He was throwing the left hook a lot more than we're used to seeing him, Deontay Wilder. He was jabbing a lot as well in this fight, which he tends to have a higher jab output against shorter fighters. We saw that against Stavern. We've seen it in this fight. So, yeah, letting the jab go, relying a bit more on his left. He appeared to drop Herndon again in round 6. Herndon kind of just pushed his head down, sagged into Deontay Wilder. He did actually take a right hand. Didn't seem the most powerful looking right hand, but obviously it had a little bit of an effect on Herndon. He goes down in round number 6. Referee this time actually rules that it's no knockdown, that Herndon was just, bending over, so to speak, and Wilder just fumbled him to the ground. 7th round, he gets hurt again, and this time the referee stops him on his feet. 7 rounds to stop this guy from Deontay Wilder. As I said, there was moments there where I thought, alright, he doesn't look that bad, but in reality, this was not a good performance. In reality, if I had to measure it in terms of, what I expected more. I expected an earlier night. I expected a more clinical finish, I have to say, not a stop standing. And has my opinion changed on Deontay Wilder, this comeback? Will he do anything? My opinion hasn't changed. My opinion is still he needs to call it a day. I think that Wilder has been completely mismanaged throughout the course of his career, because I think that although he was WBC champion, he did flipping nothing with it. No unifications, no anything. They picked a weak Tyson Fury and it came and bit them into you-know-what. They could have fought Anthony Joshua. They could have had $100 million deal from DAZN, which they turned down, or Wilder turned down, because this team said it was in his best interest, which, imagine, $100 million, for God's sake. I mean, that's in your best interest to take the flipping fight, or the deal. You weren't just going to go straight into a Joshua fight. So Wilder in his career, I don't want to say cautionary tale, because he's made a lot of money and he has a legacy of sorts behind him. If nothing else, his run as WBC champion, as unremarkable as it was, it still happened. He was a lengthy champion, he had a lot of defences. Again, as unremarkable as the defences were, he's in the history books with that. But yeah, I do look at Wilder and think, God almighty, how not to manage a career, really. I mean, how to not manage your career but still do well is Deontay Wilder. Could have done more. Best way of looking at it. So that's my thoughts on this. I don't expect much from Wilder moving forward. I think the nature of this fight, if he'd have looked devastating, one-punch right-hand knockout, could have got people maybe sold that the Bronze Bomber was back and that maybe he could build towards a Joshua fight. But I think after that performance, a Joshua fight, I think it's going to really do anything for Wilder. I don't think it's going to get the fans, appetites, Wilder Joshua. I think they're just going to hold it for one last payday, and I think it's going to be against someone decent. I'll give you an example, right? If Moses Atelma was fighting Dylan White, I expect him to come through it. If they made Atelma versus Wilder next, stop. Atelma every day of the week, twice on a Sunday. Be demolition job. So that's what I got to say on that one. Wilder, I know he's got issues in his personal life, and that's obviously, and you can tell in interviews that's bothering him. So I'm not going to comment on that, it's none of my business, but there's a lot of stuff going on there, and I think that Wilder needs to get in the right headspace. He needs to just maybe stop, have a look at everything, and just decide, what do I really want to do? Because I can do a lot of things outside of boxing. I'm set for life outside of boxing. Do I really need this? I think maybe he needs to go and think of that, but I'll leave that there. Maybe I'll do a video later on what next for Deontay Wilder. But for now, I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, people, if you haven't already. And until next time, peace.